Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where we are doing the final thoughts rundown on on Icaion and our game of Icon. Now this is a Kickstarter prototype, and a lot of stuff isn't finished yet, and we are using stuff to make it better on camera as well. So
You've been asked to do this for the Kickstarter, have you?
Yeah, well, they sent me the prototype for the Kickstarter, but then I just do what I want, and I hope people like it. I definitely...
It's a very Jeremy Kyle answer. I do what I want.
So we'll have to find out.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm just pointing it out now, if you're just joining us and you don't know this game, or maybe you've got a retail copy and you found this video retroactively, then the point is that this is a Kickstarter prototype for the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah. There will probably be changes.
They sent me the Kickstarter, they haven't paid me any money, so I'm just doing it because I like games and I like their games. Typically.
Yeah.
So let's find out if I like this one.
Well.
Why don't you go first, Michael, seeing as you won? But this is a action selection game. It's also a resource management game that gives you a lot of options.
And this is a type of game that I like. So it lends itself to something that I like generally.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot about it I do like. It's all about... What it is it's trying to get the most optimal way of doing what you need to do without too much... I mean, we have interaction with each other, but
mainly through stealing resources and cards.
Mm-hmm. And you can screw each other over.
Harder than
sometimes accidentally, sometimes on purpose. Like with any of these games, but I feel it's not as aggressive as Mystia, which is its counterpart.
Well, I think it's about as aggressive as our game of Mystia, but yeah. Sure.
That's only because I didn't know what I was doing with the warrior.
What I was just going to pick up there was what you said a moment ago about how you had a grand strategy all along. And I think the thing about this kind of game actually is it's presenting you with so much information, and about half the information is known to you, and you can quantify it and analyze it, trying to find the sort of most optimal moves to score the most points. Or investing in your future to allow you to score points later. But the other half of the time, you're reacting to information that's coming out, typically with this deck of cards, but also what the other players are doing. Yeah. And you can have a strategy, but it also behooves you to be flexible and adapt.
Yeah, adapt it, yes.
And sort of what the game is really is it's sort of like most games of this type it's a demonstration in human error. It's like you're adapting, you're reacting, you're trying to do all this analysis, and then you forgot why you were going to do what you were going to do, or you can't do it anymore, or you think something's going to be more optimal. Yeah, or you were just wrong, or you forgot something and missed it. So, and then you're playing suboptimally.
You could argue you lost rather than I won.
But I think that's true of literally every game.
True.
Literally every game.
You didn't win, I lost.
No, I don't think you can argue anything other than that Michael won. What we can do is sort of pinpoint the moments that the reasons why we lost, but ultimately it's because you made suboptimal moves, you know. Yeah. And that's because it gives you so many variables and so many options that you're trying to quantify. Correct. It could really lead to bad AP. Unfortunately, we don't suffer from AP too badly.
But there was definitely stages of me suffering AP in this, and I think that's just me as a person.
There are reams and reams of Michael's AP on the cutting room floor.
I would point out, though, that that's not to say that quick decisions are always the best. I've made some decidedly suboptimal moves by just trying to do something quickly.
Yeah,
and it bit me in the butt.
Well, absolutely.
Not as much as it not nearly as much as it could have done. But there was a couple of moments where I went, if I'd have remembered to do this thing, but I was too much in a hurry.
But what I did on the last round was change my plan because I just couldn't quite get it optimized the way I wanted. And I'm not really sure if the change was optimal. Having said that, a lot of that's from hindsight analysis, which I couldn't have used at the time. But this is absolutely one of those games that's going to have you thinking about the path you took and sort of analyzing it. And what I like about this particular game is I don't feel like it's particularly solvable. There are a lot of... we didn't even use one of these abilities very much, which we totally could have used to potentially great benefit. We don't really know. No. But there's... what I'm saying, I guess, is that I think that there's quite a lot of replayability here because of the randomized equipment cards, because of the randomized seeker cards, exactly. There's lots of opportunity here to sort of come back and try different things.
And I was if you go watch the playthrough right at the start, I'm like, I don't want this character, it's hard. But it turns out you've just got to play with what you've got.
Yeah.
isn't it? And,
Well, I think you've got to sort of push yourself because on the one hand, we observed you struggling with some of the more complex interactions of that character and forgetting to use your ability from time to time. On the other hand, you were able to win with her, so...
yeah. But that's what I mean. I quite like how it's clearly, even though it's a prototype, we were also like behooving Ollie's like, oh my god, it's so broken.
I think you've been lamenting.
Is that the word?
Yes, it was definitely lamenting.
If you want to be generous, it's lamenting. You could say whining. If you wanted to be a bit cruel. We were whining about Ollie's broken combo, which did off the bat seem very strong, but I did also say, but we never know. Once we played the game, it might play out completely differently.
And that's what I like. I think it's, even though it's a prototype, it seems not too over. It seems
for a prototype, it's got quite a lot of. It's well developed.
Yeah.
I have to say, I did find it funny that your particular combo was teleporty man. All the movement you could possibly get.
Well, on the one hand, I want to be like, I thought that this combo was kind of redundant. On the other hand, I've got 167 points, which is pretty much right in the ballpark with you guys. We were all so close.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite hard to argue that any one of these combos, and given that they're randomized out of a potential of like 16 possible combinations.
The thing I did find funny is we were worried that certain combinations just looked so much more powerful than the others, but the fact that this happened, I kind of feel like that may speak to the testing they did.
Yeah,
and so
the proximity of the final score is very reassuring.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I had a stonking great lead at the start, but that relied on I had 3 cards at the start, which were points, all the quote that I could want, and. I mean...
Yeah, because you stonked it, didn't you?
Yeah, but I stonked it, and then you guys just kept catching me up, and I kept jumping ahead, and then you caught me up, and then I jumped ahead, and you caught me up. Which means you...
Yeah, I don't think you can really railroad yourself into... If you were to say, what is the one strategy I need to focus on, I would say I don't even know.
That's what I mean, is that it's not like in some games where if I take a certain strategy, you can't take it, and there isn't a better one. We had very different strategies at the start of the game, and they've all paid off quite well.
But you definitely need to do a bit of everything. Yeah. Because if you don't have the primal shard, you're not going to be able to double your in-game scoring.
Minus 15
and that's going to be crushing, and you're going to get minus 15 points. On the other hand, if you max out 5 final shards, that's 30 points. The fact that we're debating this kind of point shows that it's a solid game.
I mean, I have to admit, that I was very impressed by the core gameplay. I like the fact that we picked it up relatively quickly. I mean, we've had a little... Okay, eventually we picked it up, but the only real complaint I've got about this was some of the iconography. Like, the game itself, I really like, and I don't think they need to change it that much for Final. The only issues I had were, what the hell does this symbol mean?
Correct.
And these bits of the board, which I cannot imagine they're not going to improve on.
Yeah, the actual terrain on the board is not great. But that's
it's not a final product.
And also that's incredibly easy for them to fix.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about backing something on Kickstarter is if there's something about it that you want to see improved, you can give them a message.
Yeah,
and say you need to update this.
Yeah.
But I like the development of the asymmetrical powers with the upgrade cards. I like the way pretty much everything works. I like that you can buy these different in-game scoring tiles. But and as you say, the iconography is a bit tricky. Partly because it's not well documented in the rulebook.
Yeah.
But what they did with Mystia was they put out an app when the game came out that explains everything, and they also put a deck which had everything written on it in text that you could buy as a supplemental.
I think though, feeling Chris's presence in the room, colorblind people will have an issue with the symbols are identical, barring the color.
I think it might behoove the design to maybe put some kind of icon in the middle of the chrome diamonds, as well as this iconography is fine. I get it, but if there's if there were 5 little symbols, each one for the different kind of chrome, that would I mean, in the final product, I don't think these tokens are going to remain the same. All of these buildings are going to be different. All of them will be kind of like the golems and stuff from Mystia, I understand, which means they'll have little colored bits on them. I think, I think it, I like the sort of the speed at which it plays as well.
Yes.
I would venture that it could be...
it could be quite APE.
But I mean, part of that's discipline on the part of the player.
Yeah, that's all down to the part of the player. You can't really because what we want is a huge decision space that is parsable, and this has that.
Yeah.
The decision space is broad, but it's also not totally paralyzing.
Yeah.
It felt good. It felt like whenever I made a mistake, I was like, oh, I see why I did that.
Yeah.
You know, I can see how I've messed that up. And it felt good when I made a good decision. I was like, yes, I've been rewarded. You know?
I did find it funny, because basic mode, we had it on expert mode so we could see the next card coming out.
Yeah.
Basic mode, you don't do that. Being able to see what the next card was, I think that helped a lot, because essentially we could avoid the Colossus quite easily if we chose to. If there was something that we needed to get, the fact that you can just discard one of these to ignore all of the impact of it is surprising, I'd say. Normally there's a bit more of a downside, but then again, you were stuck trying to get rid of a card for ages, and you essentially put yourself in the path of the Colossus to discard it.
I wish it was all of that intelligent, but no, I had a card in my hand.
Too much credit.
Yeah, you're giving me too much credit. I was hanging on to it. I knew that the thing is, I knew I had it there to get rid of in case I needed to, so I didn't really have to optimize my movement to avoid the Colossus because I could just bin that card.
I wonder if not knowing would, because of the increased randomness, if that would be more unforgiving for first-time players. Because normally they say, like, oh, play the basic mode and then play the expert when you're more familiar. I think I'd start people on, this is the expert mode.
It's such a small difference, and I think the expert mode just feels so much more in line with what you're doing in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you guys think about the city surrounding the crystal? Because I quite liked the fact that there were 3 copies of each card all doing the same thing. Because it meant that it was impossible for someone to absolutely steal the one card that you were trying to work for, because you had 3 chances to get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, less so for the pink one, because that's less valuable at the start of the game. But even so, if you're going to try and hunt for it,
it makes it a lot more balanced that you can only get one of each colour. That I totally didn't twig on earlier.
I did it too. You're in company. Mike's the odd one out. He understood the rule that he read.
Yeah, I like the way the endgame scoring tiles work. I like how, once again, it makes sure that opportunities are available to everybody, but it's all about optimizing. You know, if you grab something when someone else wanted it, you know, because realistically, you pretty much need a year to get a tile and install it.
Yes.
So really what you're optimizing is when you take the tile, because you score it immediately, how it relates to the scoring conditions of the tile. And, you know, whether and how that plan gets scuppered is if someone takes the one you want in the year that you want to take it. You know, and so it's sort of a smaller, more subtle thing, and you're not locked out forever.
Yeah.
But it just means that now you're going to have to re-implement, or now you're going to have to come up with a new strategy in that moment for this time and come back to this strategy later on. You know, like the next year, which is cool, and which is, again, a lot about sort of forcing you to adapt your strategies and make sure that you're getting the most out of it all the time.
Yeah.
Which is, and I like a lot how it's sort of implemented it.
I have to admit, the one thing that I was a bit unsure about when we started was how easy it would be to obtain the upgrade and then install it, because I thought it's 4 spaces between...
Oh, the apparatus, yeah.
Yeah, the apparatus. It's always 4 spaces. You need to plan and go, I either need a blue crystal and max move, or I need some way of increasing my move. And that felt challenging, but not as challenging as I was worried it would be.
Oh, I don't see I have no problem with it.
Oh, shut up.
I had double move for most of the game.
I had
and teleportation.
Pretty much no move.
Yeah. Well, I only had move because I was dumping out this row.
Yeah.
And even then, I ended up being one move behind where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. No.
Although
it's my game, Ollie.
No. The silly thing is I got 2 points for doing that out of 4 points for doing that. I got 4 points for doing that. The only thing, really.
Well, the only reason I dumped this thing out here is to unlock that, and then I never even built it. And that's, I think, the essence of this game. It's like, if I just done that, no, I did that, and then I couldn't do that, and then I had to do this.
There's so much.
And you know, I think, but that's just kind of reaffirming what we've already said, which is that there's so many options, and you have to adapt, and then it becomes impossible to parse what would have happened if you'd done the thing you'd originally planned, or how things would have worked out differently. So you'll never really know, and that does make it enticing to play again.
Yeah.
Inevitably, you'll have this same experience, but it does entice you back. You know, you're like, oh, next time I'm going to optimize it even better and do things differently. But you won't. You'll just make different mistakes, and it'll be fun again.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I think that's a sort of a seal of approval from us on this one. You got lots of cool models coming. The only one thing I want to mention
the combination.
Is that, if you buy this and you have Mystia, you get a third game called The Fall, which is a combination of the two. And a little piece of information for you guys is that if you combine Mystia, you take the floating islands from Mystia, the premise is that they've crashed down onto Icaion, so you put them out here and here and here and here, and you take all the troops and the golems from that game and you put them onto those islands, and then the islands are spitting them out. Meanwhile, the Colossus here is kind of like wandering around these internal territories, and you've got the Seekers from this game and the Champions from Mystia who are running around on these nodes basically trying to take out all the minions before they get into the city and destroy it. And then this victory point track becomes a hit point track for the city, and it's losing hit points, and you're trying to stop it from losing all its hit points before the city's destroyed.
Is it a cooperative game?
It's a fully cooperative game, yeah. Tower defense game. So I do have the ability to play that, so if we can get it into the schedule before the campaign ends for Icaion, we'll try and get to that. But if you want a rules and setup video, let me know. I'll do my best to make it. If you want to see it, I'm not promising anything because schedules are hard.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot on, and UKG's coming up. But,
One thing I do love about the combination, though, is the fact that Mystia is directly above this because of the crystal segment. So you just think of all the things in Mystia, it's like, oh, and what happened to this? Because you killed it. Oh, we just kicked the body over the edge. And then down here, it's just...
boom.
I mean, the best thing I can say is I'd want to play it again.
Yeah, and I would play it again too.
And I think you can't get much of a better recommendation than that, can you?
So yeah.
To be fair.
So actually, there's the one big improvement. Put a pronunciation on it. We cannot agree.
Icaion. Icaion.
Icaion.
I buy on.
Bye guys.
See you soon.
Thanks for watching.